Hello and welcome to yet another YouTube live video here at Tutorac. We have been doing this live videos for quite some time now, and in each of these live videos, we are trying to cover a new topic for you every day. In this particular video, we will try to actually create a very real-time application that we will be using or that we mostly use kind of every day. Let's say you have recently moved to United States, or let's look at the other way. Let's say you recently moved from United States back to India. So what would usually what is one thing you will see different? You will see that you have to compare your currencies, maybe from USD to INR or INR to USD. You might need to convert your miles into kilometers or kilometers into miles. You might need to convert your ounces into grams or kilograms and vice versa. You might even need to convert your gallons into liters for understanding how much fuel you're using. So many things are very different, right? The very first time when I actually went to US, I remember I was driving with my friend and my friend was like, "Hey, my signal is weak. Can you please put on the navigation on your phone?" I was like, "Sure, let's do that." So I put the navigation of the end destination on my phone, and we just put my phone on the dashboard. So after we put my phone on the dashboard, my friend started to feel a little bit confused because he was like, "Are we supposed to turn left in just like 1 mile? Don't you think it's like it's farther than that?" And I was like, "Not really. We don't really have to turn left in just 1 mile. We have to turn left in 1 kilometer." And he was like, "Oh, okay, yes, now I understand. Because I'm so used to miles, I thought that on your phone it was still written as miles." So this kind of confusion actually happened in my life in reality as well. So whenever we are in a situation where we might get confused because of different units of measurements are used, we often require to make use of a unit converter. And that is exactly what we are going to make today. So today, our approach to make this unit converter is going to be with the help of a web application. So we will try to create a unit converter application inside our React based code base. So that is what we are going to do in today's YouTube live video. In the meantime, I would request all of you, in case if you're interested, it would be very amazing if you can code along with me. And in case at any point of time, if you have any questions, please feel free to write that down inside the comment section. In case if you did attend yesterday's live video, we also talked about React. Yesterday, it was more about a very slight explanation and a very slight glimpse into the world of React. Today, it's going to be slightly deeper than that, and I will explain most of the components and concepts that are present inside React so that we can actually convert any unit into any other unit. So the idea inside my mind is, let's say we can try converting 3 different types of units, or let's say we will start with just one, and then we will see how the time permits us to do it all. So let's say we will start with distance-based conversions. So we will try to convert feet into, let's say, meters, etc., etc. So what we will be doing is we will try to convert one unit into the other unit. That is what we are going to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we will be able to do this. All right, so the very first thing that I'm going to do is actually require the initial setup of React onto my computer. So not trying to make this very complicated, what the first step would be to actually set up our project onto our computer is going to be downloading Node.js. So we will download Node.js first, and after downloading Node.js, we will be trying to actually create our very first React application. In order to do that, you just need to follow the instructions that I'm going to perform on my screen. So the very first thing that I will do is I will open a browser. So in this case, I'm opening Microsoft Edge. And after that, here I will write Node.js download. Or I can just do a Node.js space search. All right, so now that I've searched it, I will go to nodejs.org/en, and then you will see this download node.js LTS. Right now, the latest version of Node.js at the time of recording this video is 20.13.1. This Node.js version continuously changes, so make sure that you're at least on the latest version of Node.js. Like when I say latest, it doesn't necessarily have to be 20.13.1 at all times in the present scenario. As long as you're on Node 20, you are set. Not really a very strong requirement of upgrading it as long as Node.js actually convinces you or insists you to do so. So you just need to download it, and the download will be based on the operating system you're using. and the configuration of your processor. In case if you're using a Mac-based system, make sure that the download version of Node.js that you're going to use, it is of ARM-based architecture or x86 architecture on the basis of your processor. Alright, so now that we have spoken enough about it, you just need to download and install it. I am particularly not going to download it because it already exists on my system. So I am not going to download it, but you will require to download it on your machine. Okay, so now the next step that I'm going to do is I will go to my terminal, and after going to my terminal, next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to check whether my installation is successful or not. To check an installation of Node.js present inside your machine, you just need to write node space -v, and then it will return the version of Node.js that is currently present onto your machine. In your case, in case if you have just installed Node.js right now, it should be that version that you have installed right now, which according to today is 20.13.1. I am currently at 20.12.1, which is why I don't necessarily see a need of upgrading right now. Another thing that you might need to check is npm-v, which helps you understand what is a version of npm installed on your machine. So npm comes along with Node.js. So as soon as you install Node.js, npm should also be present onto your machine. Okay, so now that we have both of these two things present onto our machine, we can go ahead and start to create our very first React application. So I will firstly go to the path where I want to create my React application. So this is a folder where I actually want to create, and to create my first React application, I will write a command which goes like npx space create dash react dash app, and then followed by the name of our application. This is a unit converter, so I will write unit dash converter, unit converter. So now what it is going to do is it is going to install all the relevant dependencies that React uses internally onto our machine at this certain folder so that we can start our development with React. Based on your internet speed, the process completion might be late or early on the basis of your internet speed. Usually it does take some amount of time. So if you know that your internet is not that fast, it's totally okay to wait until it finishes. Right now, I am also going to wait until it finishes. So let's wait for it to finish. In the meantime, I can actually tell you about this unit converter. So firstly, what we will do is we will take some units of distance. Okay, let's say we will take things like feet, yards, and miles. Okay, and then we will be in a situation where we can convert each of them into the other. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. One mathematical way of doing this is, let's say we will convert everything into meters first, and then we will convert from meter to the other output field that we have to actually convert it into. So that is the idea that's coming to my mind. In that way, any single time we have a new unit to add, that way we can also just add the new unit and go ahead with it, because the SI unit of distance is actually meter. All right, so waiting for it to finish. I think it has almost come to an end, but let's wait until it finishes. And yep, it has actually finished. Every single time your React application initialization is over, make sure that you go into that certain folder, which in my case is unit converter, and then write npm space start. As soon as you write it, it will start your application into your system. In my case, my default browser is Safari, so it does open it on Safari. But because I want to run it on Microsoft Edge, so I will write localhost 3000 on my Microsoft Edge, and I can see my application running. All right, that's great. The next thing that we want to do is we will go to our Visual Studio Code and we will start programming our unit converter. So let's go there. I will open a new, I'll just click on open. I'll click on unit converter and I'll click on open. So this is my application that has just been generated, which is a unit converter. So all right, firstly, let's try to create very basic UI. So what I will do is I will go to my src folder, and over here I will create a folder called as components. Inside components, I will create a new file. Let's say unit converter .js. Okay, so I will start to write my very first React code over here, and I will be trying to create a component which is going to do two things. Firstly, it is going to allow us to choose the source unit and the destination unit. And then lastly, what it is going to do is that it is going to show us the converted value. So that is what is going to happen. let us go ahead and start writing our code. So I will create a component, and in React, we can actually create a class-based component or a functional component. React actually wants us to use the idea of functional components. So that is what I'm going to use. So I will write const unit converter is equals to a function like this. So now that we have a function present over here, I will write export default unit converter. Okay. So now over here, I will pass a few information. I will pass the information like, or I need to present a UI which is going to let me convert the units. So I'll write a return value over here, and over here I'm going to write my JSX. So let's write my JSX, and let's say I start with a heading tag. Welcome to unit converter. Welcome to unit converter. Okay. So next thing that we want to do is we want to know, let's say we want the user to actually choose two units, right? Source unit and destination units. So right now in my mind, the idea is, let's say we will have meter, okay, kilometer, kilometer, miles, then we can have yards, then we can have feet, we can have inches, and I think that should be it. Meter, kilometer, miles, yards, feet, and inches. All right, I think this should be enough. Okay, so now that we have chosen, well, now that we have actually decided what are the units that we want to use, next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a drop down in which the user is going to select what is the type of unit that he or she wants to use. Okay, so what I will be doing is, firstly, I will write something like this, const an array, and here I will write some constants. So meter, kilometer, miles, yards, or I'll just write mile, yard, and feet, and inch. Okay, I think this should be fine. So it should be foot, right? It should be foot. Okay, so it should be like meter, kilometer. I can just write m for meter, and then I can write, let's say, km for kilometer, miles for mi for miles, yard yd for yards, ft for foot, and in for inches. Okay, so these are my constant values that I'm actually using. All right, nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user for an input field, like tell me which unit you want to convert. Okay, and next thing to that is I also want the user to input what is the value of the input that you're using. For example, if I want to convert kilometers into miles, I also need to provide what number of kilometers that they want to convert. For example, I want what is 2 kilometers in miles. So I need to provide the user of a place where they can enter the value 2. So that is also something that I will have to do. Okay, so let us allow the user to select the source and destination. Okay, so I will write, let's say, an input field should be an option and select. So select, I will put up a form field over here, form. Inside this form, I will write select. Okay, and here I will write select input input unit. Okay, and then I will provide some options. Select input unit. Okay, I'll write option. Option, let's say option is meter, meter. I just want to see if it works. Option, let's say kilometer, and so on and on. So if I save it, and if I go back to my React application over here, okay, I won't be able to see it now because I haven't rendered it just yet. So let me just render it onto the screen. I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code. I'll go to app.js and firstly remove everything else that is present. And here I will write unit converter. Okay, so now I'll go back to my browser and you can see it says welcome to unit converter. And then I also have a text written on the screen and then a drop down as well. Great. So I'll go to my unit converter over here and inside select, first I will write a label and put this thing inside the label like this. And now if I go back, okay, it doesn't render like this. Okay, instead of doing that, another thing that I can do is I can remove my label and I can just put it over here. Okay, so we see select input unit and then we see a option like this. Okay, great. So firstly, we will just try to create a functional model and then later on we can actually start to think about the styling part of it. Okay, great. So we have select input unit, meter kilometer we are seeing. That is nice. Similarly, I will ask the user for an output unit. So select output unit. Okay, so here I have select output unit. Let me just add a break tag over here. So break, or I can just put it inside a new div tag. Div. Similarly over here also div. Okay, so now if I go back, this is what we're seeing. Select input unit, select output unit. Okay, great. So now what we will do is we will provide the user an input unit and output unit. And then we will also want to provide the user of writing an integer value that they want to convert. Okay, so we will write another div over here and I will write an input field, firstly with a label, enter the value to convert. Okay, enter the value to convert, and then we will provide an input field, input, which will be, let's say, placeholder, enter the value to convert. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so over here, this is what we have, enter the value to convert. Okay, now let's say as soon as we write 2, we see a big value over here which tells us what is the converted value. So let's say I have the converted value like this, another div inside which I have, let's say, an h4. The converted value is let's say, for example, for now is 25. Okay, so if I go back, this is what I'm seeing, the converted value is 25. So right now we have developed a very basic piece of UI which is going to do the job. Okay, so we have to select input unit, output unit, and we have to enter the amount or the quantity of the unit conversion that we want to do, and then we will see the output value. Okay, great. So we have done very basic level of programming over here. Okay, so now the next thing that we have to do is we will try to make sure that we are actually able to convert the input into output. Okay, so for that reason, I have one small idea inside my mind. So right now what we have done is we have taken this constants as an array, right? What we can do is instead of making it into an array, we can actually make it something like an object. So let's say const units is equals to, let's say we have meter, right? So meter colon m, kilometer as km, then we have yards as yd, okay, then we have inches as in, then we have miles as mi. Okay, these are the 5 units we had: meter, kilometer, yard and inches, and miles. I think we also had feet, right? So let's say foot or feet as ft. Okay, great. So these are our units. So these are our units. All right, nice. So what I will be doing is, next thing I want to do is, firstly I want to provide an option field so that it has actually all the feed or all the conversions that we need. Okay. So to do this, instead I'll remove this option field over here, and then I will just pass something like this. I will just pass something like this. Okay, so I've written an anonymous function over here, which is going to return the keys of this particular unit's object. So what I'm going to write is, I will write, let's say, return object dot keys of units. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Dot map. So this is my key. Okay, and over here I will write return option option, and here I will write E, AEY like this. Okay, so if I save it and if I go back, you will see in input unit, there is nothing that is coming right now. That is strange. It should technically be giving us something, but the reason it is not giving us something right now is because this function is never called. So instead of writing it like this, we can just basically just write it like this, I guess. I think we have a bracket imbalancing situation. Let me just try to fix it. Just a moment. Yep, it should be fine now. Let's go ahead. And now we can see meter, kilometer, yards, inches, and miles and feet, everything. Okay, so everything is coming properly. Okay, so input field is meter. Then in the next case, don't you think that we should not be having input and output field as the same? Like I should not be converting a meter into meter, right? I should always be converting a meter into kilometer or something other than meter. So in that case, we need to make sure that we have the information of what is selected in the input field already. In case if input field is not selected, then we can't select the output field, something like that. So in order to do this, we will make use of the concept of state. So let's try to make use of the concept of state. I will write const, or I will just import use state first, import use state from React. And then over here, I will write const state comma set state as use state, which is going to be an object that should contain things like input unit, which is our string by default, then output unit, which is also a string by default. Let's say then input value, which in this case is going to be number of the units that we want to convert. So input value, let's say by default is a string, and then empty string, and then let's say output value. Output value. These are the only things that we need, right? Output value, which is also a string for now. Okay, so now as soon as we actually select this option, we need to make sure that we are able to pass this value. Okay, so what we will be doing is we need to make sure that as soon as this option is selected, then we are able to select that certain value. Okay, so I will write on submit, or instead of on submit, I will write on change E, and then I will write, let's say console.log E. Okay, suppose this is what I've written. Now if I go back to my browser, go to inspect. Oh, I think this console is very large. Go to console, clear it up, click on this, click on kilometer. You see that I have a base event that has been selected. Now this will contain something which has the value. So not native event, I think it should have event target. Inside target, there are multiple values, right? So if you notice, any single time I select something, then it is not opening, or it is not containing the information of the option from where it is coming, right? It is getting the information from select only. It is not getting this option of, or it is not giving us the information of the option field that we are actually using. Okay, so because of that reason, we will have to make sure that we actually change it in a different way. All right, so in order to change it in a different way, we can think about some new techniques, okay? So one thing that we can do is we can make sure that we are changing it from the options only. So let's say if I remove it from select and if I put it on options, then let's see what is going to happen. So going back, removing it, clicking on inches, then we see that that input is not triggered, right? We see that that input is not triggered. Okay, so how can we actually fix this problem? How can we actually fix this problem? We need to make sure that we always have to enter the right option that has been selected. But with the help of select, we are not able to do that. So in order to do this, let's say I'll write a new function inside it. Let's say I'll write over here const on drop down select. On drop down select. Okay, and I'll write it as a function like this. And here I will pass the index value. Okay, here I'm passing the index value. Okay, so now that I have the index value as well, what I will be doing is I will take two things. I'll take the event and the index value, and here I will make use of something like this. So here I actually want to set the input unit, right? So I'll write input, let's say type, something like this. So here I will write if type double equals or triple equals input underscore unit, something like this. Then I will make sure that I select it for the input unit only. Okay. So firstly, before I get to do that, I will write e dot target, target. If I go to e dot target over here, if you look at the solution, one second, I think I need to recreate that event. So it is present over here. All right. I need to put it back over here. Okay. So going back to this place, I'll have to comment this function first because it's giving us an error. Refresh, clean it up. Let's say kilometer, we see the event. So we will go to event.target, and then inside the target, we have a few list of options, right? So we will go back, and because we already have the index, we will be writing e.target, and then this target is actually containing an object. So right, it is actually containing what? It is containing an array. So let's try to see if that is actually going to work. I will pass my index over here. Okay. And then if I open it up, each of them will have a value associated with it. So if I write e.target.value, let me look at the value. I think that's not mentioned just yet, but I will mention it right now. Let's say value as the key. Save it, go back, comment the function like this, refresh it, click on kilometers, and we expand it. We can see e.target.option, and I think we should be able to see the value as well. Let's look at the value. I'm looking for the value. It's too large, so it's kind of difficult to get there. Value. So we got meter, right? So we are actually able to get the answer. Great. So e.target.index.value. So that is what we needed. Dot value. Okay, so this is what we got. Let's say const input type is equals to e.target index.value. Okay, so this is what we got. So we can write let, and then we will just convert the input type on the basis of the units that we have actually mentioned over here. So I will write input type. No, I think it's fine. Let's make it meter, like just like that. Okay, great. Now, if it is an input unit, if it is an input unit, that means I will have to convert only the input unit part of the state. So I will write set state state state. But I personally believe that every single time we are selecting an input unit, we should always reset everything. So every single time we are selecting the input unit, we should always reset everything. So because of that, I will write input unit as input type. Okay, the output unit should go back to its original value. The input value should also go back to its original value, and then output value should also go back to its original value. Okay, otherwise, else if the type is actually equal to output unit, then in that case, we will set the state and write state, and then we will write the output unit as the input type. Okay, output unit as input type. All right. So this is how we are actually going to select the input unit and output unit. All right. So now that this is done, let's see if it is actually working or not. First, I'll try to print this value. So console.log. I'll try to print console.log, and over here I will write input type. Okay, great. And then I just want to call this on dropdown select function. Okay, so in order to call this function, I will make sure that I need to do something over here. So I'll write on input. Let's see if that works. Coming back, clean it up, click on yards. So we are seeing from the select only. Okay, no problem. Coming back over here. So every single time on change is, every single time this is run, we need to make sure that we actually have the value that is present over here. Okay, so now we have to make sure that we are able to use this on drop down select function in case of the input unit over here. I think there's one small help that I would need. Let me just do it a Google search. Let's say select in React. Okay, so let me just see how I can make use of select tag. Select in React option value. Okay, so let's see how they are actually doing it. So yep, this is what we have. The value is the option state. Okay, fine. So in case if I go to this place, you can and should simply write value as option state. Okay, fine. So we have the values and then we have the state. Okay, great. So in case if I go back to this place, and then if I write value is equals to meter. Let's see what happens. Refresh it, clean it up, click on kilometer. This is what we are seeing. Okay, fine. So if I go to and select kilometer, it is never changing because I have hard coded that value. I need to understand a little bit more. You use a default value as, okay, fine. We can use that option as well. Anyway, I think I got the help that I personally wanted. So here we have selected, or here we have created two drop downs, right? One is for selecting the input unit and second is for selecting the output unit. Okay, nice. So with the basis of the drop down, I think personally, we are able to see one small problem. Let me see if we can fix it. So on change is here. I actually just want one small help. Let me see. So select tag on change in React. Let's see what we actually get. Handle the on change on the select element in React. Something like this is what we want to do. So we have the options. Okay, fine. Key and value. Okay. So we have the key and value and the text. On change is handle change event. Okay, I think I now know what might actually be happening. So we have the option dot value. Okay, fine. Let's try to check it this way. If it works. So we need to remove this on input. We need to add key also as key over here. And then let's see what is going to happen. Going back to React app, opening our console, cleaning it up, clicking on kilometers. This is what we're seeing. Target is select. And let's check back to this blog. Okay. Let me just try to put it and let's see how it actually does handle the event. So I'll copy it. And going back to my code, I will write it over here. Paste it. Okay, so let's go back. Clean it up. We have choose an option, right? So as soon as we click it, we get Apple. Okay, fine. So we can just use this template for our job to be done. Okay, so these are the options that they have given, value and text. All right, so we will also do something similar. So we will have, let's say, value as M or meter, and the text is going to be meter, like this. Then we have value as kilometer, and the text is also going to be kilometer. Then the value is inch miles, miles. Then we will provide some more options because we have 6 options, right? And then we will write yards and yards. YRDS, yes, correct. Feet and feet. Here we will write inches. I think we wrote it like this, right? Inches. Yes, correct. Then here also I will write inches. All right, nice. Option 0 dot value. Okay, great. All right, nice. So this is how it is handling our state. Nice. So far we had actually done an input unit and output unit. That is what we had done, right? So I will remove this part of the code and I will write set state. We have event.target.value, right? So I will write dot state and input unit it should be input value, right? Input unit. Yes, input unit. Input unit as e dot target dot value. Okay, so this is what we are going to use. And over here, I will write state dot input unit. Something like this. We have E. Okay, it should be E like this. E, E, and so on. Save it. Let's check if it's working fine now. I click on meter, I get meter. That's great. All right, so one part of the problem has been solved. Okay, so what I will do is I will bring back this UI. I'll bring back this UI and I'll take everything just above it. The handle change is what they have made. So instead of using handle change, I will be using, I'll just copy it and I'll bring it over here. I just need the E, so that is what I want. And then I'll take this options, I'll bring it at the top of my file over here. And lastly, I will make use of this div. So I'll make use of this div over here, bring it at this place, select field. Yep. So there's no handle change over here. So it's on drop down select. Save it. And let's see how we are actually able to get the value. Save it now. So we have select input unit. As soon as I click meter, it gives me meter. That's great. So same thing I'm going to do for the output unit as well. But before that, I want to actually provide it a type as well. So let's say I take a type. Okay, so here I will write an if condition. If type is input unit. If the type is input unit, then it's going to do something like this. Otherwise, if it's an output unit, else if type is output unit, then set state dot 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 state output unit as e dot target dot value. Okay, that is what is going to happen. So now that we have this on change function, I will make it like this. I'll write e over here, and then I will call my on drop down select function. On drop down select function with an e, and then the type, in which in this case is going to be input unit. So input underscore unit. Okay, so every single time this particular selects will happen, it will go to this function, it will make sure that it matches this if condition, and after that it is gonna do what? After that, what it is gonna do is it's just gonna set the newer state. All right, great. And then after this else if statement, we just have to do the unit conversion. All right, great. So here I'll just mock this. I'll do a new select and I'll paste it over here. Okay, so select output unit. This will become output unit. Save it. And yep, with this way, we will be able to set the input unit and output unit as well. Okay, so now we have output unit as well over here. Okay, fine. So far it is working absolutely fine. Let us check the value of the state, console.log state. Refresh it. Okay, there's one small thing that I think we need to change over here. So over here in the second one, I need to write output unit over here. So output unit. Okay, so this is working absolutely fine. So our states are getting set. Now we just have to write the value over here. And as soon as we write the value, we have to do the conversion. Okay, so let's try to do the conversion as well. Okay, fine. So we will have to write some sort of convert related steps. So let's try to write that. So for writing our conversion steps, let's say I'll write const convert as a function. Const convert as a function, which will take input type, output type, and value. Okay, these are the three things that it will take. So let's see how it is going to do the job. Okay, so we'll have to write some sort of condition. So if input, or I think we need to write, or we should convert everything into meters first, and then we can have every single unit mapped to meters, and then we can actually get the job done. So that is what we can do. Okay, so what we will be doing is we will try to convert every single unit into meters because it is the SI unit. So here I will write const, let's say unit in meters. So kilometer is actually 1000, meter is actually 1, meter is actually 1, then inches. I don't know how many inches are there in a how many inches are there in a meter, or how many meters are there in an inches. So inches to meter. Okay, let's see. I personally don't know, so I'm just going to do a Google search. So I want this many meters. So 0.0254. Okay. 0.0254. These many meters. Okay. Then we have yards. Let's see how many yards are there. So we'll go back. We'll write yards to meter. So 1 yard is actually equal to 0.9144 meters. So I'll paste it over here. Oops. 0.9144. Is that correct? Yep, that's correct. Then we have meter, kilometer, yards, inches, miles. Let's check that. So miles to meter, which is 1609.344. Okay. So 1609.344. Okay. So these many miles, meter, kilometer, yards, inches, and I think we missed feet. Feet. So let's check that also. So feet to meter. 1 feet is equal to 0.3048 meter. 0.3048. Okay, so this is every unit converted into meters. Okay, so now let's say I want to convert kilometer to inches, something like that. So I will convert the kilometer into meter, and then I will write how many meter on the basis of the calculation of how many meters are there in an inch. We will do the calculation. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how it is going to be. So I will write if input type, or on the basis of, yeah, I think I'll have to write both. So I'll have to write conditions which are going to be very, very vast. Okay, so I have to write conditions which are going to be very, very vast. So I need to make sure that I have a mapping between every two different types of permutations basically, because I have 6 input fields. So I have to write 6 into 5, which is 30 different if-else conditions, which is something that is going to be very tedious of a task. I just want to demonstrate what I want to do, because of which what I will be doing is I will only consider, let's say, 2 input types, or let's say 3 input types. So 3 multiplied by 2 will be 6 total, 6 combinations, 6 permutations that we can have. So I'll write 6 if-else conditions. The more inputs you actually add, the more conditions that we will have to add. Okay, so for that reason, what I will do is I will kind of exempt kilometers. I will exempt, okay, I can just exempt it from here. So I'll exempt kilometer, and I will exempt yards, and I will exempt inches. Okay, so I'm exempting 3 of them. Okay, I'm exempting 3 of them. All right, so now we will write some code. So if input type is actually meter, if input type is meter, and output type, if input type is meter, and output type is actually equal to miles. Or instead of this, we can just write it like this also. If input type is meter, then if output type is equals to miles. Okay, then in that case, because 1 meter is actually equal to 1 meter only, right? 1 meter is actually equal to 1 meter only. So what I will do is I will write, I have to just convert it, right? So I will get, because I have to get 1 mile in terms of, sorry, 1 meter in terms of miles. So I'll have to write some sort of mathematic conversion over here. So I will write 1 divided by this value, right? I will write 1 divided by this value. So over here I can write, it should be 1 divided by unit in meters dot miles. Okay, which is going to be my output type. So over here I can write output type, something like this. If the unit is in meter, then it is always going to be console.log, something like this. right? Let me just see if it's working fine. Seems like I'm making some small mistake. Okay, there's a balance of the if condition. Okay, fine. So this is my convert function. So as soon as I input my value over here, I should see that convert function happening. Okay, I should see the convert function running. Okay, so I will write on change. Is it fine? Yeah, on change. Okay, so here I will write E, and then I will write const value is equals to E dot target dot value, and it needs to be converted into a number. So I'll write number, which will convert this into a number. And then I will write my input field, my output field, and then I will actually just show the value. Okay, so I will write convert. For now, I'm just consuming miles as default output type just to see if it is working fine. So my input type is, let's say, meter, and my output type is, let's say, miles. Okay, and the value is the value that I've written over here. And it's actually trying to print it for now. So, okay, great. Let's save it. Let's go back to this place. Let's go to our application. Okay, let's try to add any value. Let's say 1. So we see this very large, or I think I should say small, very small number, which is going to tell us how many miles are there in a meter. Okay, so it seems to be working absolutely fine. But as you can see, it is kind of not changing, right? It's not changing. Okay, fine. That's because we are not using the value over here. So it should be value multiplied by this thing. Correct? Now if we go back, clean it up. Let's say I write 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see that the number is increasing. That is great. So as long as the type or the value is meter, it is going to work absolutely fine. So instead of even having my input type anymore, what I can do is I will write over here unit in meters input type divided by this thing. So this is going to give my actual converted value. Let's try to check. So input type is meters in this case, right? So instead of doing it like this, I will write state dot input unit, and here I will write state dot output unit. Save it, and if I go back, refresh it, clean it up, let's select an input type like meters, output type, let's say feet, let's write 1. Yep, this is what we should get. So it is working absolutely fine. So you can see that the conversion is happening and it is also giving us the value. Now we just need to print it. So after the convert is happening, what we will be doing is this value, whatever it is doing the conversion, I will mark it or I will save it inside my new state. So I will write const converted value is equals to this thing, and then I will write set state dot 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 state, and then I will write output value as converted value. Okay, and then lastly, at this particular place, I will just write my state dot output value. Oops, output value. Let's check if it's working fine. Coming back to this place, refresh it. If I write meter, miles, 2, and yep, we can see that inside inside 1 meter, there are these many, inside 2 meters, there are these many miles. Let's try to check the other way around. So we should write meter and then again a meter, and then we see this value over here. So inside, we are converting 2 miles into meters, right? But it doesn't seem to be working fine. So there's something wrong with the way we have actually written it. So meter and miles, if you write it like this, then it is correct. But if you change it to miles, and then if you change it to meter, and then if I write, let's say 2, then it is actually correct. So there is one small thing that I want to remind you. So every single time we actually change the input value as well as the output value, we have to make sure that we have to convert again. So let's try to do that as well. So our convert function is going to do the job. Okay, so our convert function is going to do the job. So I'll copy this. I will copy this, and over here in the drop down select, I will remove it. And this is what I'm going to write. Okay, so yep, I think it should be fine. There is no value that I'm using, right? So value should come from state dot input value. Okay, so every single time I actually modify this thing, this particular thing, then I should write set state dot 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 set state dot dot dot. Here I will write state and then input value as value. And over here, the value of this thing is going to be state dot input value. Input value. Okay. Now every single time we go to convert, if the value is not present or if it's an empty string, we will not make any changes. So only if it is present, then and only then we will make the changes. Okay. So let's see and go back, refresh it. Let's select I want miles and I want feet. So how many feet are there in miles? Say 2. Okay, so there are 10,560 feet that are present in our miles. So with this, we were actually able to make our application as well. There's one small thing that I think isn't working very well. Let's check it. Meter, miles. As soon as I write 2, it works, but then it is not actually changing or not having the value over here. So we'll have to see what we are doing wrong. So over here, if I go to this place, so we are input value. Okay, fine. Let's check. So using input value, that's correct. So over here, when we write the input value over here, then why is it not changing? That is the main question, right? So let's see how it is gonna be working. Let me write, let's say 5, 6, 7, everything is fine. Let me just look at the elements. This thing. Is there a value present over here? I personally don't see it. There isn't a value present over here. Let's try to control it. If I write, let's say 0 over here, then we actually get 0. That is correct. So the value, let's say I'll write it like this. Value, right? So state.input value is kind of not working, which is very strange. I'll have to check this. Let me see. It may be because of a uncontrolled to control unit. Let me just write, let's say, an input value as 0. Save it. Go back. Refresh it. 2. Okay, it's not working. Okay, coming back to this place. C is not a number. Okay, I think we'll have to figure it out why it's not working. Let's just go back. If I write 2, then it gives me a not a number unit. Okay, fine. If I remove this convert statement, refresh it, let's say I write anything, it's giving me a not a number issue. That's weird because it should not be giving me a not a number issue. Let's try to see why this is happening. So we'll have to debug our application a little bit. So let's try to debug it. I'll go to my sources, then I will go to my unit converter application. And over here, as soon as I write something, let me just select an option, meter, another meter, it's not working. That's very, very strange, to be honest. I'll have to, there must be something wrong which is happening in our application that I'm not able to identify. So let me just go ahead and see. I'll put up my window over here, click on meter. It is working fine so far. State is set, then conversion will happen. Conversion, okay, the conversion can't happen because input type, because output type here is missing, right? So input type is currently absent and output type is also absent. Okay, fine. I think I know why it is not happening. Let's go ahead and see how we can fix it. So we have the event, we have the input type as well as output type. Okay, fine. So we will have to do something over here. Right, set timeout. Let's see now. Refresh it. We see a not a number value. Okay, fine. So one thing that we can do is we need to find out what we are doing wrong. Let me just go back to the place where the code was working. I'll remove this if condition. Okay, fine. And then lastly, state.output value. Okay, so I'll remove it now as well. Output unit, output value. Okay, fine. So after the conversion is done, it does set the output value. Okay, fine. Let me just do the console.log. Console.log converted value. I want to see the printing of the value. Refresh it, go to inspect, click on meter. Oops, I don't want this anymore. I'll close it. I'll go to console. I'll go to miles. It still gives me NaN. That is very strange, to be honest. Let's see why this might be happening. Right, anything over here, it is not getting the conversion. I think it's happening because of lazy loading of the state. That's the idea I am getting, but I just want to be sure. Okay, so both are meters. If I write 1, then it's giving me a not a number value. Okay, fine. Let's try to check the convert option. So let's say if I write something pass, if I write 1, then the input type is meter, output type is meter. That is great. So I'll just try to get the converted value. So converted value is actually 1, and it should print 1 here in the console, which it is also doing. That is nice. If I change my unit to miles, let's see what happens. The output type is actually still meter, which is a problem. So I have to pass it and I have to print it as well. Okay, fine. So the problem that is happening over here is with the state change actually. So that is what is actually creating this problem. So when we are doing the input unit and output unit, and then we are calling the convert function as well, what is happening right now is the state change actually does take a little bit amount of time, because of which this problem is actually occurring. So that is the only reason why our input unit and output units are not updating in time, because of which this error is coming. So either we can fix it right now, or we can think about what are the other steps that we can do. So let's go ahead and see what we can do actually. Let me just try to make use of Google a little bit. So I'll see React state change uh, previous, something like this is what I will write. React state change not reflecting instantly. It's an asynchronous activity, which is what I'm aware of, but I just want to see how it is going to be done. So we can do this using a callback. All right, let's try to make use of a callback. That is also something that we can do. So I will make use of a callback. I'll make use of a callback like this. Okay, so this is what I will do. But at any single time, whenever we have to call the convert function, all the values should be present. So input unit, input type, and output type, and the value should be greater than should be greater than 0. Only then we will actually do this. Okay, let's see if it is working fine now. Going back to this place, going to console, refresh it. Let's use meter. I'm sorry, I don't want this. Let's choose meter. Then we will choose miles again. Go to console. So we write 1. So we are getting the value. That is great. So now that we are getting the value, it is doing the conversion also. We will set the state over here. So set state dot 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 output. It should be output value, I guess. Output value, correct? The output value as the converted value. Oops, 1 second, one small mistake. State, comma. Yes, this is fine. Over here, yeah, it looks fine to me now. Let's check. So if I write 2, it is coming fine. All right. So with this, we were able to fix the error also. The error that we were actually getting is that the set state was being called asynchronously, and we were trying to do a synchronous execution of the state change, because of which we wanted to see the updated value. So this was pretty much it from our side in this live video here at Tuteract, where we not only developed our unit converter application, but we also ran into a real-time problem and fixed it in real time as well. To stay connected and to see more videos like this, please stay connected here at Tuteract. In case if you have any questions, please feel free to write them down in the comment section and I will try to answer them the first chance I get. Until then, stay connected with us at TutorRack.